Hello, my name is Liael, or Cafe Misery, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite decks that got some upgrades out of both Set 13, Parallaxic Clash, and Ichicon. That being the Fated One of Sacred Time, Liael Draconis. Liael Draconis is a deck that, honestly, I've been in love with since Amorta. I think it's a really fun deck. It focuses on binding your own units to get multi-attack, kind of like Gear Chronicle. Because the whole idea is that Amorta is an Angel Feather and Gear Chronicle unit. She's really cool. And Draconis was the upgrade that kind of fixed some of the little issues with her. Out of Set 13, we got a cool Dual Nation card that goes for both her and Odium that we'll be getting to. And out of Ichicon, we've got Liael, which is going to be a major player in Keter Sanctuary decks for a while. So I hope you guys are ready, and let's go ahead and get into the deck, starting of course with the ride line. I'm on the intended one because I'm a fucking dweeb and I love Belnista. And our grade 1 here is Player of the Harp Adorphus, which when she's run upon by Player of the Beautiful Chord Elegina, the grade 2, for a single Soul Blast, you get to draw 2, then you'll either discard a normal unit or you'll discard 2 cards. This is essentially the original Zorga grade 1, except she's when rode upon and she cares about normal units instead of normal orders. Going to our grade 2 Elegina, we've got the ability to, when she's rode upon by a grade 3 Liael, you get to pick any number of normal units in your drop, you bottom deck them, and as long as you pick at least 3 or more cards, you draw a card. Note that does not have restrictions on Sentinel, so if you really don't want to take any damage, you can use your Sentinels early and be fine. And the reason for that is going to be that this girl right here, the Fated One of Sacred Time, Liael Draconis, she's got 3 skills, including her Divine skill. Her first one is an action during the main phase for 4 energy and binding a normal unit from rare or drop. You get to give her a drive, but you do have to discard a card also as part of the effect. Other than that, as an auto on Vanguard Circle, when she attacks for a single counterblast, you get to pick one of your rear guards, bind it, and search your deck for a unit with the same name as one of your cards in your bind zone, and you call it, then shuffle. So every turn you're going to be shuffling the deck, so it doesn't matter that you bottom deck cards. And lastly, her Divine skill is that at the end of the battle she attacks, as long as your opponent is on a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, you can ride a grade 3 with Liael from your solar drop. But its drive does become 1. Moving into our grade 3s, we actually have quite a few in this deck. First, of course, being 3 Persona rides, and then we've got 4 copies of the original Liael Amorta. She has a very similar Vanguard on swing skill. That doesn't actually matter here, but if you end up, for whatever reason, riding her, when she attacks for a counterblast, she binds a unit and calls the same unit from deck. The Divine skill is also very similar, except it has to be from drop and it has to be an Amorta. Again, should never come up. And the most important one is the middle auto ability, that when she's put on Guardian Circle, by discarding a card and bottom decking 2 of your bound cards, you pick one of your Fated One units and it cannot get hit. She is 4 more perfect guards that, as a little spoiler, they're searchable. Along with the 4 Amortas, we're also on 3 copies of Blessed Dragon Gabelius, who, when placed on rare for a single Soul Blast, looks at the top card of your deck and either leaves it there or bottom decks it. If you put on bottom, he gets an extra 5. And when he attacks, as long as the damage zone has 4 more cards, he'll get 5. Or if he was placed by the ability of a Fated One this turn, and your rear guards haven't done any drive checks, for a single counterblast, is going to get plus 10k and drive minus 1 instead of plus 5, and he'll get to do an extra drive check. So he's going to be a little bit extra pressure on turns you call him out via Draconis' skill. Riding our grade 3s, we're on 2 copies of Nebulized Path to Reach for the Stars, which can be played from drop. And when you do, you bind and do one of the 2 effects. The second one is Locked Nebulite, so you're always doing this first one to check the top 7 cards of the deck and call a unit with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard, then shuffle. If you hear weird sounds, that is my cat being a menace instead of being calm like she normally is. Anyways, we're on this not just because we're a Cater Sanctuary deck and the card is insane. We need as many free discards as we can get, which most of this deck is now free discards. We'll get to that shortly. Rounding out our grade 3s is our Regalis piece of choice, the Fire Regalis, which cannot be played, but can be removed from hand or drop to check the top 5 cards of the deck. Choose a card from among them and reveal it. If you don't reveal a card, you shuffle up and draw. And then, if you did reveal, you're going to perform one of the following. The first one is Locked to Glitters. That doesn't matter. The other one, though, is that if the revealed card is less than or equal to your Vanguard's grade, you get to call it. So it's just another card that lets you search your deck for more combo pieces. Moving into our grade 2s, of course, we've got 4 copies of the Knight of Bright Blade Liael, who, when placed on rare, as long as you have a grade 3 or greater Liael, you can soul blast 1 to check the top 7 for either a unit with Liael in its name, so either Draconis or Morta, or a copy of Blessed Dragon Gabalius. And just to put it to hand. And as a continuous during your turn, as long as you have a grade 3 or greater Liael Vanguard, she gets +5. Or if you have a Gabalius either on Rearguard Circle or Bind Zone, she gets 10 instead. So she is a 15 to 20k beater. And we are only on one more grade 2 unit. The Sky Engraving Decree, Urut in Liael, the new Dual Nation. She's got 3 auto abilities. First one being that when she's put into Bind or Reaper's Grade Gauge by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Liael, as long as you didn't look at the deck by her own skill, so like as long as you didn't try to use the skill twice, you get to check the top 5 cards of your deck and add a grade 3 card without Regalis piece. So this whole suite right here, added a hand, then shuffle. Along with that, when she's put on rear from hand, you can reveal a Liael and Ride deck, or if you're on one, that line of text that really should be keyworded. Cast 1 to draw a card. And when she attacks, as long as you have grade 3 or greater Liael Vanguard, she gets +5. If the opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, she'll get +10 instead. And if she gets +10, you choose up to 1 non-sentinel normal unit in your drop, and either put it on bottom deck or into soul. So that she kind of makes every normal unit in the deck a free discard, because all of them are going to be just put back in the deck just fine now. Moving on to our grade 1s, we're on 2 copies of the Knight of Distant Bow, Almav, who, when placed on rare, you do that reveal or are on the intended Vanguard Liael, and you energy charge 1. And at the end of the battle, she boosts. As long as you have a grade 3 or greater Liael and the opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can put a soul, and you, the player, gain all of your front row rear guards, get +5k until end of turn. So she helps you recurse soul, which will be very important in the deck. And she also makes your front row bigger, which is really good, because this deck's biggest struggle is power, which we'll get into the pros and cons. Moving on, we're on 4 copies of Lake Maiden Lian, who, when discarded during the ride phase, you can either call her as rest or soul blast 1 and just call her as stand. And when she's placed on rare, you can draw a card, and if you do, you discard 1. We're on 4 of her because during your ride phase, you can discard her, you get a body back, you get to deck thin, and if you happen to hit her off of Dorfus there, that's still the ride phase. So you can discard her, call her back. Other than that, we're on 3 copies of Saragon. Yes, the stupid dog is here. Just as a quick refresher of what he does, as long as you have more rear guards than your opponent, or you play it in order, it gets +5 during the battle of boosts, and at the end of the battle, for a cost of retiring it, you can look at the top 2 cards, one goes to hand, the other's bottom decked. Lastly, we're on 4 perfect cards, including a Sanctitude. Going into our trigger lineup, this is where we have some really fun stuff going on. Starting with the most normal part, we're on 7 critical triggers. You can run the soul crits, but it's not necessary. Along with that, though, we're on 2 20k guard fronts, and 2 of the guard draws. The reason we're on that is because for binding your rear guards when your vanguard swings, and specifically for the Divine Skill turn, you may actually want to put that power onto a booster instead so that you can save it for when you really want to use it, or if you want to push it for the second Liael swing. So the fronts aren't always the best option, and this deck is really good at the grind game already, so you can sacrifice that 10k guard for some more draw value. And getting extra cards in hand is always good in this deck. We're also on 4 regular heals, none of the counter heals. The deck has enough grind game already, so you don't need to risk your counter heal not actually being useful in a matchup. For the 5k, for the extra 25, instead just have them be 15ks. And for my OT of choice, I'm on the Spiritual King of Aquatics, Idosfaro, who, when draw check, you add a card from drop back to hand and give it a critical. You are perfectly fine to run any of the OTs. You could even run a Marnoa, and it'd be really funny to just make your Gabalius do Twin Drive instead. It's really funny. It's perfectly fine to do a Marnoa instead. Even, I just personally think Idosfar is the best. The extra attack from Walnut is also pretty good, but that's going to vary on your mileage a little bit. The 4th drive check is funny, but not that great because you're already on 3 with Draconis' base skill. The Nyx Azalea is actually the bottom of the list for me, even below Marnoa, because yes, it's an extra heal, but you are always going to have your rearguard circles full during your vanguard swings. At most, you'll have 1 empty back row rearguard circle, so if you don't have anything to add back to hand that's a grade 1 to boost, yeah, you don't have to call it, but you're kind of losing out on the full value. I don't really like losing on the full value like that. And then Marin Zombie is just a board wipe, and that's sometimes useful. Moving on to the pros and cons of the deck. First off, this deck is a cockroach. You cannot kill this deck. You are at higher risk of decking out than dying 9 times out of 10 because you got 8 perfect guards, 4 of which are searchable off of 2 of your 4 ofs. You've got 7 of them being recyclable too because they're normal units. Because that is the only stipulation, is binding a normal unit from rear or drop. It does not have to be a non-sentinel. So you can recycle it with Amorta. And you don't even need to bind the Amortas to be able to recycle it because Urut and Liael can just bottom deck it, and then you'll end up shuffling them back later. You got messed up. On that, because you're able to search for so much of your deck. Again, this whole top row is searchable by Urut and Liael. You cut out 2 more cards, drop it down from 12 to 10. A 5th of your deck is searchable off Liael. You'll probably always see a hit. If you don't, it's just bad luck. And being able to deck thin more with cards like Lian and Sergaun, your compression is insane, especially with anywhere between 3 to 5 drive checks, depending on what turn you're on and what your combo is that turn. You have a lot of pressure. You don't need to really worry about not seeing pieces. You've got a lot of survivability because your hand is going to be big and you have so many perfect guards. And your best combo piece to, if you don't have pieces in hand at the start, or your paths, they bind themselves. They fuel your Amorta perfect cards. Going into the cons, though, one of the biggest things is it's the downside of the biggest pro being that you can deck thin so fast. You deck thin so fast. Urut and Liael and Amorta put cards back. That's typically enough to keep you from decking out, but it is a huge risk with this deck. you are very likely to lose to decking out rather than losing to your opponent killing you normally. Because you're ripping a card out from deck with Amorta, you've got searches and draws out the wazoo. And yeah, every turn you can recycle at least 2 of your bound cards. And then, like, if you have an Uritan Whale, you swing, you bomb deck something from drop. You putting pieces back, but that's not going to guarantee that you see it. And along with that, a lot of these cards are not online until you're on grade 3. There's a card that I do not have in this build because I just moved, I don't have a lot of money to put towards some of the stuff that I would like. I don't have copies of Liael, which is a grade 2 promo card that is a beater when you're on grade 2. Uritan Whale is live while you're on grade 2. Yeah, it's not a 15k beater anymore, but you can do the on-place for the extra draw if you want to. And you don't actually lose anything from Conquer early, so that's nice, but you're not plussing off of her at all. Liael, if you don't know, is a card that is tied to the Draconis component of the name rather than the Liael. She's a 20k beater if you have a copy of her bound. And at the end of the battle, she attacks as a mandatory skill. You either reveal a Draconis in your ride deck, and if you do, you retire her and draw a card, or you put her soul to draw a card. Quick talk of how I'd actually fit her in. I'd swap out 1 regular PG, a Liael, and an Uritan Whale. And this would give you 3 more grade 2s that deck thin, that put more pressure on early. And the reason to do one of these ones is because it is not searchable. These are 4 searchable PGs that recycle a lot easier. Along with lacking a lot of early pressure, which fixed if you put the Liaels in, I just don't own them. Fixed, lightly solved by Liael and by Sargon. You burn through your soul really, really fast if you're not, like, paying attention to it. Adorphus Soul Blast, to call her as stand so that she can be a beater. When you discard her, you have to Soul Blast. And your only soul recursions are Uritan Whale, but only after your opponent is grade 3, and Almav, who is only after your opponent is grade 3. I would recommend doing the soul criticals in the deck. I don't have them here because I don't have them here because I didn't want to. That, I would honestly recommend doing it. I just didn't feel like finding them. Or like Soul Fronts. Soul Fronts are really good for this deck too. We've talked about why I'm on Shield Fronts instead. Like I said, the deck, not a lot of the decks online before grade 3, and having the extra guard going second can come up a lot. That's the biggest reason it's still on 2 of these. But this is my Draconis list, and along with some notes about how I would change it if I had the promo. If you guys like my video, you like listening to me yap, you want more of that, do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see y'all next time. Ciao.